Hey everybody, I'm Michelle Coyle, and this is Queer Hustle, where we teach queer entrepreneurs how to start up and scale and showcase awesome queer entrepreneurs that we know so that you can learn from their journey. I'm really excited to have Carol McDonald on today from Meridian Solutions, multi-passionate entrepreneur and all-around badass, very busy lady. Very flattered that you took the time to talk to me today. Carol, you want to introduce yourself to the crew?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Carol McDonald, like you said. I am the founder and CEO of Meridian Solutions, which is a social impact communications firm based in Washington, D.C. I'm also a partner in a creative agency called 76 Words. We make television ads for elections and progressive causes. So yeah, that's a little about me. Quarantining here in Northeast D.C. Shout out to Riggs Park, my neighborhood.
And I believe that a little birdie told me you just started a third business as well, you crazy person. What is that?
I started a third business with two of my two partners in crime called Black Girl Basil, which focuses on highlighting Black women, queer, trans, and gender nonconforming artists, collectors, and curators. And we normally have an event at Art Basel in Miami every December. But because of COVID, we're taking the show online, and actually now it's growing. So we're preparing for our big online convening 3 days long in December.
So cool. Carol, always biting off more than you can chew and chewing it out of stubbornness. After my own heart, I'm the same way. I get it. Tell me, let's talk about that, because what compels you? Because I know you're so busy. We're in the middle of election season. Obviously, you do election work. What is it what's the bug? What's deep inside your heart that keeps making you want to start new businesses?
What's the bug? Well, some of it is there's a need out there in the world that needs to be filled and no one's filling it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, I can do that. Or a lot of times I feel like, I don't know that I know how to do that, but I know the people who need to be brought together to do this. So it's a little bit of, I feel fortunate that I can think beyond barriers and just really embrace possibility. And I kind of think like, well, if it doesn't work, well then fuck it, then it doesn't work, right? But if it does work, then it's gonna be awesome. So that really drives me every day. Like I feel so, like I wake up every day like, yes, mostly overwhelmed by my to-do list. And I write these lists down and I'm like, I know I'm not gonna do all this shit today. Like I know it's not gonna happen, but I'm gonna try. I think it's possible. What if I hire more staff or get more people engaged? Because these are all things that need to, that I feel like need to happen. So I don't know. It's probably a little bit of a sickness.
I mean, it's definitely a little bit of a sickness, but it's also helping people. It's helping the world. So, we love it. We'll allow it. I love this concept.
There are worse ways to be sick than this way.
Yeah, I mean, I got the same sickness. That's the only reason I can say it to you with a straight face. I think I love this concept of like the huge to-do list. And if I get 75% of it done, then I got a lot of shit done today, right? It's like a shoot for the moon, land among the stars kind of an attitude.
Yep. It does require, and I think this is a big shift that I just had to make in my brain space, right? Like it used to be that I had these ambitious to-do lists because like I felt I wasn't good enough and I had to do all these things to prove that I was good enough. And I don't have that anymore. So now I still have my ambitious to-do list, but I'm like, I did a lot of shit today. I did some good stuff. And everything else, it'll get done. It'll get there. So I think I'm a little bit less, I have less anxiety around it all and less sort of a need to prove myself. Now I'm just like doing big things. We're doing fun things. And, if it doesn't get done, well, there's always tomorrow or another.
I love it. Like I've seen such a big shift, and I've known you for a few years now. I've seen such a big shift in you over those couple of years. I mean, and former client of mine, obviously super, super proud of what you've been doing. But part of what, when I first met you, you were doing crazy things. Like I remember you posting on Facebook and being like, I think I might have twisted my ankle, but I'm going to work anyway for 4 more weeks before I get it looked at because there's just no time. And then and I was like, Carol, I'm like in your DMs, like, Carol, please go to the doctor. Like you're freaking me out. And then to now when it's, you know what, my whole staff is going to go to a 4-day work week. And you know what, like, I'm going to take a fucking vacation. I'm going to spend time with my kid. And like, this is going to happen. And I'm still going to get all this stuff done. But if I don't, these other things are priority. And I can't, you know, I can't put that over myself, my own health, my family, my staff's health. Tell me about that shift and what was kind of the catalyst for you? Was there like a one moment, or did it kind of come over time? And how are things now versus how things were then for you?
I think a little bit of it came over time. And then I had a huge awakening like early last summer, because I just sort of had, looking back on it now, it is probably what you would call a mental break, right? Where I was just really in a bad place. And I remember thinking to myself, like, oh, I am probably a little bit depressed and I should go, like, I've always been in therapy, right? But I was like, I should go to a psychiatrist. Like, maybe I need like even a little bit more help. And, you know, so I'll do that. And I got diagnosed, and she like called me back in the office to like read me my diagnosis. And she said, you have severe depression, anxiety, PTSD, and ADD. And I was blown away. I was like, wait, what? And then she, you know, and she kind of went through and pointed at, these are the things that led to that diagnosis. And that really made me sit back on my heels. The second part of that is, you know, because I've worked in abortion politics. I'm like, no stigma, right? So I'm going to tell everybody. I'm going to tell all my friends. I'm going to tell my people that are close to me. And what really surprised me was that no one was surprised. Like, I was surprised to hear this news. No one in my life. They're like, yeah, that tracks. And I was like, really? So it made me think about like, well, how have I been moving through and navigating? And, you know, I mean, occasionally friends like you will wave their hand and say, hey, stranger danger. Like, what are you doing over there?
Red flag.
So like, I'm fine. But to hear that reflected back, I was like, oh, I have to do this differently. Now, I feel really fortunate that my diagnosis came 3 weeks before I had a planned vacation, 3 weeks in Europe. And I had my mom and my daughter with me. And so basically on that trip, I slept 12, 14, 16 hours a day. Normally when I go, and, you know, because we go every summer, normally we have like a packed schedule. We go hither and thither. We have activities. All I did was sleep. And then my mom hung out with my daughter. And then whenever I woke up in the middle of the afternoon, I'd like roll out of bed and I'd go hang out with them a little. It was very chill, like super laid back. And 2 weeks into that trip, I started feeling calm. It took 2 weeks. And I was like, oh, so that was another like aha moment, right? Mm-hmm. Now I don't fuck around anymore with my sleep. When I'm tired at the end of the night, I go to bed.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's it. So again, and I have my little get your shit together. I don't know if you can see it. Let's see.
Kind of. The Zoom background's kind of messing with it, but yeah, we can see it a little bit.
I'm going to stop it so you can see it because it's important. There.
There we go.
Get your shit together.
Get your shit together.
This is one way that I keep up with some of my to-do items on like a day-to-day basis. But yeah, if it doesn't get done, go into bed, wake up in the morning, and start over again. A lot of these things roll over. It's all good.
One of the interesting things about working for yourself, or a shift from going from working for other people to working for yourself, is if you're working for other people, at least if you have a good manager, which I know people in politics always laugh when I say that, but at least if you have a good manager, your workload is kind of regulated for you, right? There's somebody saying, okay, here's probably what you can handle. I'm going to mete out, you know, a certain amount of tasks to you. And then when you are in business for yourself, it's suddenly like, okay, everything needs to be done. The to-do list is endless.
Yep.
You know, how do you prioritize?
How do I prioritize? You know, that's a different question, or that has a different answer today than it did maybe 3 months ago or 6 months ago or a year ago. Because now, I have folks that like can take pieces and run with them. And really the priority just becomes checking in with them, making sure they have what they need, answer any questions if they have any, right? So there's that. I still have a little bit of like, okay, well, this is on fire today, so I'll take care of that. And if you're not on fire, then I'll catch you later. And it's interesting because not like everybody thinks that their sense of urgency is unique. It's like, oh, everybody else is on this sort of, on this rhythm, but my stuff is really important. And in the meantime, everybody is running like this. So I've learned to not respond to that. Like I actually asked, I'm like, somebody gonna die if this doesn't happen today? Like I know you want it today. I know your donor wants it today, but like, what's the impact here?
Right.
And then I kind of have to just say like, I'm not doing that anymore. Part of that I think is cultural, and we're taught that this is how we have to work. And somebody said a couple of weeks ago, I'm not working at the pace of white supremacy anymore. I was like, oh, ding, 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 ding. There it is. So I sometimes say that to my clients and they're like, wait, what? Like, no. I mean, I hear that you feel it's urgent. I get that. I'm not belittling that or, diminishing that, but it's going to be all right.
Right. Like, I understand that that's important to you. And also I have my boundaries, right? You're obviously doing like a much, or you're approaching this very differently when it comes to setting boundaries around your work than you were a few years ago. And I love that kind of self-love and self-care has not only come into your own experience, but in the way that you now manage your staff and are making it a priority for them to take time off and care. Why is it important for you to make sure that your staff has time to take care of themselves?
Because, well, a number of reasons, right? I mean, I think one, we're not our best selves if we aren't well taken care of and well rested and well loved. So I want them to feel that. And I do recognize how that is not common, that is not a common approach. But I feel like if we're going to be true to our values as a firm, then we have to live that in the way that we do the work. And people have to be able to come to this work as their full selves. We're not so much in the business of products, although that certainly is, that comes with the territory. But what we offer is a unique lens and a unique perspective. And that requires our brain and our heart and our soul. And that has to be tended to. So for me, that is, I kind of lead with that. And it informs everything about how I run the firm.
I've been really focusing on that, like slow down to speed up lately as well. And it's about giving yourself that brain space and that heart space and that inspiration. I love that so much. And I love that you're bringing the neuroatypicality into it too. I mean, I have ADHD and anxiety as well. The Venn diagram of people that are entrepreneurs and have ADHD is like a circle.
That's right.
It's we're suited to it, and I like to think of it more as like a difference than a disability, right? But it's like we're suited to it because we're able to kind of work at our own pace and lean into our strengths. And if we're nocturnal, we can work overnight or whatever it is. But then when you come into managing other people, you kind of get back into, okay, there has to be a flow, there has to be a rhythm here, and then how do you manage taking care of yourself and what you need with maybe what other people need, or if they work differently than you. Understanding that at the basis of this, you want to create a work culture that's different than the larger culture. Than you said, like we don't want to work at the pace of white supremacy. I want to create, at least in my microcosm, something a little bit different here.
Or, we're going to work at the speed of white supremacy for, a limited amount of time. Like every even year for 3 months.
Just 3 months. Less white supremacy than we had last year, and then we're making progress.
That's right.
When you talk about bringing your full self to work, I mean, obviously this is a show about queer entrepreneurship. And a lot of the time when I'm doing videos or advertising or anything, a lot of the comments I get are like, what does this have to do with business? Like, why the fuck does it matter if you're queer? What's your sexuality have to do with anything? We talk a lot about how people, especially people that have been marginalized in corporate America, often turn to entrepreneurship to kind of get what nobody was going to give them. What does it mean when you say showing up as my full self as an entrepreneur, and also for your staff showing up as their full selves? I assume part of that means showing up authentically in your own identities as well. Can you talk about how that intersects for you with work and how you think about creating that space for the people who work for you?
I think it's shout out to my latest hire, my COO slash IT person,
Yes.
who hooked up my my whole home office setup. It was pretty swank, and I got a fancy new microphone last week. So I mean, I think part of your question is what actually is the definition of queerness? Because to me, it's about sexuality, but it's also about, I think, challenging oppressive systems. To me, it's queerness is about challenging white supremacy and patriarchy and extractive capitalism, and those systems benefit from us feeling less than whole. Mm-hmm. That is, in fact, that is the that's the kryptonite, right? That's the energy that those systems need in order to thrive. And so, in order to subvert that, being able to show up as your full self and being authentic is core to it's core to the culture that I'm trying to create.
When you're queer, when you're femme, when you're non-binary, when you're disabled, when you're Black, just showing up as who you are sometimes, especially when you have an intersection of multiple of those identities, right? Just showing up as who you are, just showing up in leadership itself can sometimes be a radical act. And that's sad.
Right.
But it's true.
Yeah.
And when I was saying, on my Facebook feed the other day, like, show up in all your joy, how radical would that be? And a lot of people were like, there's no joy today, it's COVID or what. And I was like, what I'm trying to say is, if you did, if you can access that, if you can show up with that. And I'm thinking about a pride parade, especially an early pride parade, right? I'm thinking about Stonewall. I'm thinking about those trans women throwing those stones. And I'm thinking about people showing up and saying, fuck you, I'm showing up exactly as I am.
Yeah.
In leadership, right? Making a change, moving something forward. This is a radical act.
Yes. And I think it goes back a little bit to what Barack Obama said in his speech at the convention last night. Yes, we can be cynical about what's happening in the world. What's happening right now is utterly fucked up. And folks who are, the folks who are on the margins are really feeling the brunt of this, the many pandemics that we have, not just the virus, but all the other social ills. I think, but if you look at our ancestors and the people who came before me in my family, they didn't suffer through 350 years of enslavement in the United States. So I can sit here and poke my lip out about it. I feel like I carry a responsibility and an obligation to move the ball forward towards having everyone's full humanity recognized. I think your question about how radical would it be if we could live in all of our joy was such a great framing and such a great question, because that's the whole point of this enterprise, is to remove those barriers that keep us from living in our full joy. And yeah, we're not there yet. I get it, acutely aware. But I also think that it's important to access that joy whenever possible. And that also is a part of the way that I manage my staff and do the work. Yes, it's hard, and yes, there are times like now when it's the load is heavy. But we also got to have fun with each other and enjoy each other, and and to me that is also a queering of the work.
Absolutely. I love this, and it's such a sensitive topic. People get very upset when you start talking about, let's be happy, let's try to be happy, let's try to access joy, let's try to celebrate, because it's it's almost like you're trying to take away from the bad things that are going on, and that's not what we're saying. But when I'm saying oppression is about making you unhappy, oppression is about getting you stuck in your own head about how much things suck and how stuck you are and how unhappy you be, so that you're distracted by that and you're not coming up to challenge supremacy, patriarchy, right? And so when you show up and you say, no, yeah, that's all going on, and yeah, that really fucking sucks, and yeah, it's happening right now, and yeah, I want to fight it every day, and also I'm going to show up and celebrate, and I'm going to be in my joy, and I'm going to be happy, and I'm going to be productive, and I'm going to fucking step up, and I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to be sitting right beside you with a smile on my face. There's something really radical about that. And I want to convey that, you know, and I love, and you embody that so well. It's one of my favorite things about you.
To me, joy is futurism. What is it that we are fighting for? What is it that we want the world to look like? What do we, and I ask people that all the time, and like, you know, let's envision the future, and not just in the negative, you know, not just in the absence of bad things, but like, what does it look like? What does it smell like? What does it taste like, right? What are the textures? What are the colors, the smells? So yeah, I hear you.
Absolutely. You got to be able to see that outcome. You got to, and there's so many people, you know, and as we work in the movement, especially, it's easy to get mired into what's wrong, what we're fighting against. Like we don't want to lose sight of what we're fighting against. We don't want to lose sight of what's wrong. Obviously, we want to be focused on that, but we also want to be focused on how do we want it to look different? What are we moving toward, right? What's the outcome here? So it's not just sitting here being like, this is shit.
Mm-hmm.
It's this is shit and we could be doing this, or part of this is shit and part of this is great and let's do more great stuff.
It's why I started the third business, which is really arts focused, right? Because I feel like I think that artists have that ability to see things beyond the confines of, you know, boundaries and convention. And yeah, so I think that's why I lean towards that discipline and folks that are in it. So
yeah, when you talk about who's radical, who's futurist, who's moving stuff forward, always look into the artists. And I love that you're showcasing artists that are coming up and that are diverse and that have different perspectives and different things to say and different things to show. I think that's really cool. You know, when you look back to entrepreneurship, you know, a lot of the people that watch this are queer folks who are just getting started in business, or who are not even in business yet, but maybe thinking about starting a business, thinking about it as a way toward their own liberation. What advice would you give to somebody sitting at that stage?
Just starting your business. I mean, I think there are a couple of tactical things, right? You know, get a good accountant, like step one.
Good.
And not just someone who's like good with numbers, but someone who also shares your perspective and your passion. I happen to find like the best accountant ever, and she's been with me since almost day one. And not only does she give amazing advice, but I know that she's really rooting for me and cheering for me to do well and be successful. And I've probably brought her like 15, 20 clients since then, because I just love her so much. So if you're in the DMV area, you need a good accountant for your business, holler at me, I got you. And I think there's a little bit of trust your gut and so, you know, definitely trust your instincts. And I think I did a lot of this on instinct when I first started, and I had no roadmap for this. Like, I don't have a model for this in my family necessarily. I didn't go to school for this. So I was just kind of making it up as I go. And I think luckily, like, probably 8 out of the 10 decisions were right on. One that was sort of questionable, and then one was like just terrible. It's like, yeah, no, I should have gone the exact opposite direction.
Sure.
But you know, but just listen to your own voice, and then surround yourself with people who are smart and who do things and invest in that learning. That's how I found you.
Yeah.
And worked with you, and that has been tremendously helpful. Just kind of helping me gain some understanding and insight that I didn't have before.
Yeah, there's always going to be tons and tons of opinions coming through,
mm-hmm.
right? Especially when you start a business, right? Everybody's got, oh, you're in business, cool. You know, my uncle's dog's friend's cat had a business, and here's what they did, and here's how they got rich. And so a lot of what we do is you know, talking about how to filter those opinions, because it's not that we don't want input from anybody else. Obviously, input from the right people is really important. But making sure that at the end of the day that you're filtering all that input through your own gut, through your own instinct, is so important, and really probably the core definition of entrepreneurship, in my opinion.
Yes. And I think, I mean, you mentioned something too, and again, this is how you and I got to know each other. I mean, my purpose in becoming an entrepreneur wasn't to be like, oh, I'm going to start a business because I want to make a ton of money. You know, I wanted to do a thing in the world that I cared about. I also am not apologetic about being successful. That, you know, being successful allows me to do a lot of things, take care of my family, my extended family. It allows me to and take care of my village, my people, right? My chosen family. It allows me to pay people well and like pay for all of their benefits, which I know is not something that a lot of people do, or that's not necessarily common or the way to think about it. It allows me to take care of people in a way. It will allow me to break the cycle of poverty that has haunted my family for generations, living in capitalism. So, yeah, I think maybe at some point there was like a sense of guilt or shame around being ambitious in that sense, and I no longer have that either. Like, no, I'm not in it just to be another cog in the capitalist wheel. But at the same time, we all get to eat and wear nice shoes.
Yeah. And create fucking jobs and pay for health insurance and things like that. I think guilt and shame, least productive emotions, absolutely tools of oppression. When anyone's doing something that elicits that in you, you got to question their motive and say, why does this person want to make me feel guilty? Why does this person want to make me feel ashamed? What are they projecting onto me that they feel? Or what's the motive that either consciously or subconsciously that they've got to keep me from doing things, because making me feel guilt or shame is just going to curl me up in a little ball, and then I'm not going to actually do things, and they know it, right?
Yeah. And I think it's there's a difference between guilt and shame and having an analysis of the system in which we were operating. Because at the end of the day, all these systems, patriarchy, white supremacy, capitalism, these are all systems that we're all trying to navigate, right? We're all in it.
Yeah.
And we can and we should try to decolonize ourselves. And we also have to survive, and we have to
yeah. I mean, at a certain point where you're operating within the system as you dismantle it, and that's always a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
But you're doing the damn thing, and you're doing it every day, one foot in front of the other, and you're taking care of a lot of people while you do it. So awesome example to up and coming queer entrepreneurs. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on Queer Hustle today and to talk to all of us.
Thanks for having me.
You're busy. We know it's election season. We love you. We appreciate you.
Thank you. And good luck to everyone out there. You're going to do great. And, talk to this one, because she has all the answers.
Not all the answers, but, maybe some of them. Thanks so much, Carol. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.